Aloha, Namaste, Sitaram, Assalamu Alaikum. Shalom, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each and every one of you, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us on Divine Soul Journey today. It's always a pleasure, and you know how much we love your support. And we're really hoping that these shows and our amazing guests that we have will help you on your journey. And we would love to hear from you as well, to share your story. And please feel free to message us at dsjshow2020@gmail.com. My name is Dianne Ojar, and people ask me why Divine Soul Journey. Divine? Because we all believe or connect to a higher force or source. Soul, we all have a soul, that intuition, that something inside of us that excites us and guides us. And we're all on a journey, and we want to be on a journey with you. As a disclaimer, just want to say this is not about religion in any shape or form. We respect everybody believes, and sometimes we just have to have faith in who we are, and we respect that. And I want to say I do deeply respect my guests today, particularly because we're going to be talking about some sensitive topics, as comfortable as she wants to be. So in saying that, I would love for you to join me to welcome Lydia Maes. Welcome, Lydia, to Divine Soul Journey, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Diane. It's a great honor to be here.
Thank you. So this is your first time on radio. So congratulations. Yes. Congratulations.
Oh,
that's
you.
A big step for you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been on my awakening journey, I guess you could say, for over 35 years now, constantly learning, growing, and expanding my consciousness ever since I can remember, really, as a young girl. I had some traumatic events as a child, and that launched me into a journey of self-discovery and self-healing and wanting to integrate my soul, heart, mind, and body.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, congratulations for that as well. It's just the awareness and the knowing, the consciousness, what you need to do. And it's discovery, and this is why we're on a journey. And this is why you're on a journey with us. So thank you I really have to say this and emphasize that the topic some of the things we're going to mention, it takes a lot of some people to talk about trauma. I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma as much as you want to. And not everybody is willing to do so. But that is part of the journey, and it gives us strength. So why don't you share with us how you started this journey, who you are, and why we're here today?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is a journey, and it is it's an interesting journey because I feel like I was a victim for a long, long time, and I have transformed that into being a warrior.
Awesome.
And it's around, it's around sexual child abuse, which is a sensitive topic and can trigger people. As a small child, as far as I can remember, 5 or 6 years old, maybe even early as 4, I remember the important men in my life, the men that were there that were supposed to protect me, were the ones that were abusing me. My stepfather, my grandfather, my oldest brother. And, for a long time, I felt like it was normal because I didn't know any different. And it wasn't as I got older, and had more self-awareness that I realized it wasn't. So that really launched me on a path, if you will, of overcoming all the trauma of that, right? Of of low self-esteem and guilt and shame and hypersexuality and all the things that come along with that experience. And for 20 years, Dianne, I didn't speak of it because I was so determined for it not to be my story. I didn't want to identify as a victim of child sexual abuse. But where I am today is I realize that in a strange way, it's a gift. Everything that happens for you, not to you, when you become conscious enough to realize that. And I realize that my story is a lot of women's stories with, maybe a little different twist. And that by being strong enough, healed enough, aware enough to be able to go out now and speak of it, I can help a lot of other women see that they're not alone, see that they can heal, see that there is a path forward. And so that's why I'm really here today and willing to talk about this.
Thank you so much. And I do want to say this, you're focusing on women for the moment. However, one of the things I do want our audience to know is that this type of trauma has no gender preference, and it happens to the girls just like the boys, even adults as well. And society, when you look at society, out of every 4 people, at least 50 to 75% have been molested, sexually raped, incest, in any way, shape, or form, or combination, or in growing up. It was a norm, in a sense. We're not making excuses for it. We're not condoning it. We're not accepting it. We're not here to judge on anything. But that was the life back then. And going to your parents or family or people who you trusted, and telling them they would not have believed you because you're a little child. But one thing I have to say to everyone, listen to children sometimes. You can know your child. There's some who cry wolf, and there's some of them who basically, you got to know your child and pay attention. Because I've seen it follow people throughout their whole lives as adulthood and grandparents. And yes, so congratulations for being the warrior. And you're being a warrior here right now, just even talking about this. So thank you for that. Not many people do, but you tend to find more people who are doing it more and more. Now, I always say, and most people hear me say this, you will not be given something you cannot handle. And sometimes you say it was a gift. Well, it was a lifelong lesson in order to get you to where you are to be right now, in this place, in this moment in time, because we only have the present. We can work on the past. We can work on that and release the emotions, but definitely to have a better future, we need to work with the past, and that is what you're doing. So congratulations to you, Lydia.
Yes, and what you say, Dianne, is so right on, actually, because it's exactly my experience. As a young child, I did go to my mother. I think I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, and told her that her husband, my stepfather, asked me for intercourse, and she didn't believe me. She actually slapped me across the face and told me not to tell such dirty stories. So it's very true that, that's the experience that we went through back then, as you weren't believed as a child. And as I got older, I realized that my 2 older sisters were also being approached by my stepfather, but nobody talked about it back then. Like, I did not know that until I was almost an adult, because nobody talked about it back then, and it's very different than it is today. And so it is a huge breakthrough for women to be able to come forward and talk about this now. I was made to feel like somehow I caused it, I asked for it, those kinds of things, which, of course, I didn't even know what it was as a small child, let alone ask for it, because I was told that by my mother that I asked for it. So Yeah, so that's definitely very, very true in my case, and I think in a lot of women's cases.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's the thing about women, especially in relationships. Going back again, I want to say here, we're not here to disrespect anyone or anyone's parents or anybody for that matter. That's not why we're here. We're here to help others who are struggling, have challenges with what's going on inside of them, which we will be talking in a moment, as much as Lydia wants to talk. We're here to talk about this. And this may not be the only time we'll have Lydia on because, it's a conversation that needs to be heard. It's here, it's still happening, and it's not going to go away unless we do something about it and teach and bring more awareness
Right.
and help. And that's what it is. And Lydia, if you're open to, later on and we can take this further in different conversations, I'm happy to do so. So please, after you today, we can talk about that. Because I really believe it's not often a lot of people are willing to go the mile. Because you're right now, and I'll ask you something in a moment, but you're right now taking this and flipping it into a business that's going to help women, that you want to focus and start with women, but the ripple effect will go to, the male, and then probably to younger girls and boys, but you got to start somewhere. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about this, and if you're not comfortable, please feel free to tell me this, okay?
Okay.
What are some of the things you felt, and this is not like an interview, this is conversation, just a dialogue. What are some of the things that you felt, if you can remember or recall back then, that how did you feel? Because one of the things I talk about is the brain. And I talk about, we have the happy hormones, which is the dopamine, serotonin, the oxytocin, and so forth, which is the happy hormones, which is what we want to make you feel good. And then we have the cortisol and so forth, the adrenaline and so forth, that doesn't make us feel so good. So one of the things I want to know is to listen to your body, for you to know to listen to your body, to know when something's good and when it's not good. And that's where your gut comes in, your intuition, because that's your happy hormones or the not so happy hormones. Those are the chemical hormones naturally in your body. So if you put it into perspective now, back then, or how did it make you feel when you spoke to your mom? And did you remember as best as you can some of the feelings that you went through, the challenges, obstacles? What did it do to you, your morale? Anything you can tell us to remember? I know it's a long time because I can't remember for that long either.
Yeah, no, it was actually very traumatic. I remember it being very traumatic because she didn't believe me, and she didn't believe my sisters either. And like you said, it's not her fault. It was the I don't know what the word is, society at the time. She was a mother with 8 children on her own, and was trapped herself. So I'm sure that was part of it. She couldn't kind of
Yes.
leave, and survive with 8 children, so she didn't want to believe it. Through therapy, I also realized that she was probably molested by her father, which was my grandfather that molested me. So her walls were much higher and never came down. So that was part of it. But what happened for me was I left home at 14 years old because I did not want to have intercourse with my stepfather. Up until then, it hadn't reached that point, and I really just got determined that I was going to decide who touched my body. So as a child, I felt like I had no control over my body because all of these men in my life would just help themselves to my body, kind of a thing. And I must say that I wasn't physically raped. I know that that's happened to some women. It wasn't that traumatic, which doesn't make it okay, but it wasn't that severe. But I wasn't in control of my body. And I can actually remember as a child probably being outside of my body because I would be looking down at my body as they were, using my body to pleasure themselves, I guess. There was a lot of masturbation and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't want to trigger anybody or get too graphic, but that was kind of my experience. And so, yeah, not being in control, and certainly not being listened to, not being seen. And so I left at 14 years old and went out on my own because I did not want. I wanted to be in control of who touched my body, for a better way to say it. I was just tired of, it would always happen at night when I was in bed, asleep, they'd come into my room and, supposedly my mother never heard. I don't know how she didn't, but, so I was afraid to go to sleep at night. For a long, long time, I slept with the covers almost over my head, kind of hiding under the covers. And as I got older, one of the effects of that was when I was in a relationship, my partner could not approach me while I was asleep. That was absolutely not allowed. So that was one of the effects of that, I guess you could say. And so I overcame that as well. I don't have that, whatever the word is for it now. But yeah, so it definitely affects you really throughout your adult life.
It does. It was like a protective shield, like a security blanket. That was your blanket, and you protected yourself. You put like a shield around you, only because you never know what's going to happen. And this is one of the things that most people don't realize. You know what? I still have to go back to say this. You were still a hero at the age of 14 to make that conscious decision that enough is enough. How did you survive? What did you do at the age of 14?
Oh, it's an interesting story. I was very hyper sexually active, I guess, is one of the things that happen when you have a lot of childhood sexual abuse. So yes. I was determined that I was going to decide who I was going to have intercourse for the first time. So I picked a neighbor man that was 24 years older than me, 10 years older than me. I was 14, he was 24. And the very first time I had intercourse, I got pregnant. So I was a 14-year-old mother in grade 9. That's what happened. So I was out on my own, and I ended up marrying him. And to shorten the story, he ended up being physically abusive to the baby. So I left. She was 9 months old. Today, Child Protective Services would have put him in jail, but back then we didn't have that either. I took her to the doctor, and the doctor said somebody punched her, and he showed me the knuckle imprints on the side of the baby's face, and I was incredulous because I couldn't understand how anybody could punch a baby. And when I came home and asked him, he broke down in tears, said he couldn't stand it when she cried. I'm like, well, how does punching her in the head help her to not cry? And that was it. I left. So what happened then was I was in a Seventh-day Adventist religion that my mother brought me up in. It's a very strict Protestant religion. They follow all 10 commandments, yes. Or they try to, which is kind of difficult because there's 139 versions of the King James Bible. But
That's
anyway,
correct.
we won't go there.
That's correct. Depends on who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a minister from church coming to counsel me every Friday. This young 16-year-old mother with a 15-year-old mother with a baby, and I don't know, 3 or 4 visits in, he asked me if he could touch my breasts, and I was just like, "You gotta be kidding me!" I'm thinking that I'm getting away from this, and here's the minister of my church asking me if he could fondle my breast because he said his wife didn't allow him to touch her breast. And that really set me on this path of that I was on because I went away from the church, and I almost went away from God because it was like, okay, church isn't the answer, is what I was thinking then. I mean, these men are everywhere, but as I got old enough, I realized it had nothing to do with the church or God. It was this man, right? But anyway, so Yeah, so it was a very interesting experience. But it's interesting that you talked about armor, because what ended up happening was I ended up putting on an armor, a spiritual armor, a mental armor, or an emotional armor, where I was a very belligerent, defiant woman. I pushed men away. You know, they were afraid of me at work. I was always one-upping them. You know, I had to be better than them. It was like I had to prove myself that I was as good as a man. It was very interesting. So my girlfriend used to always say, "You've got this armor on." And that's exactly what it was. It was armor, to protect myself and not let anyone in, really, is what it did. And it again been a journey to de-armor and open my heart again and trust again and realize
Absolutely.
that, you know.
And I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you can look back at it and have a chuckle and a laugh about it, because you will always be on a journey of healing regardless at the end of the day, because until we really release the emotions that attach to those events. And then of course you also put on this armor to be protective of your children, not to be in a situation, so you're protecting them not to be with someone who will end up doing this, because there's a pattern, there's always a pattern, and we always tell we attract, we are until we work with it. But on a different side of that, as you know, because you're also a healer, we have a lot of karma that we carry from lifetime to lifetime, for those who believe and those who don't believe. Again, we respect your faith and belief. However, in saying that, like 50% of our trauma comes from our past, and it's passed down. And apart from that, we have the other parts of that we have to work on. And when I mean karma, it's lifetimes of, you could be somebody else or in a different light, not in this particular body, as you know, as Lydia, that you're carrying this with you. So this goes beyond just this physical time of unresolved things that you had to take care of. But it's comforting, maybe that's not the word, but whatever is coming out of my mouth is coming out of my mouth. It's comforting to know that you have grown from this and you understand who you are and you are willing to overcome this. And again, I'm going to come back to it. Be the hero in this story. And we have to say that anybody who picks on anyone as a bully, let's put in perspective like a bully, they're looking for something. They're looking for attention. They're looking for what they're missing, as you say with your pastor. So at the end of the day, sometimes we don't know who's going to cross our path, even like you did with me, until you told me your story. But at the end of the day, we know there's a lot of people out there who want to share this story. I'm hoping that this story will help others put up some signal or alert, because what you've gone through still happens.
Right.
And then you go out there looking, searching, but as a 14-year-old, you don't even know what you're looking or searching for. Like you just want someone, hopefully you can meet, that can help you. But the problem we have is we don't know who we're looking for, and we have a lot of runaways, and we have a lot of people out there at a very young age being promiscuous and in this lifestyle and just don't know what it is they're looking for. So then they get controlled by other people. And this is where your story is very strong. And I thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Diane. And I think that the point that you made about karma and forgiveness are two huge tools that I learned in my tool bag that really did help me to transform. The very first time somebody said, "Forgive," I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Forgive? How can I do that?" But when you realize that forgiveness is for you too, not only for the person that you're forgiving.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they're living rent-free in your mind and in your body. And I always say that acid hurts the container in which it's stored more than that upon which it's poured. So by not forgiving, you're carrying this acid around in your body. And when you realize that, and you realize that you can do the forgiveness, and it's going to benefit you as much as it will, release the karmic bond, so to speak, the faster you can move forward. Because as long as you're holding on to it, you have that negative information in your field, basically, is how I would say it.
It's actually a disease.
So, yeah.
It's actually a disease. A disease is not only a physical disease, as we know, as a virus. Food is a disease. Addiction is a disease. Sexual addiction is a disease. Sexual pleasures is alcohol, drugs. These are all diseases. It's a disease. Why? It's hurting your body, and then your body shows it. When your body is not comfortable with something, it's going to tell you. It's going to show up in hives. It's going to show up in the way you look, you lose weight. Pay attention to these things. Your body is telling you something's not right here at all. Now,
right.
You talked about, and this is probably a good segue and point about forgiveness. Forgiveness is for really, it's one of the most powerful, not because it says so in the Bible, and we're not here to preach a Bible, but gratitude, forgiveness, is bringing peace within. It's about you. Right. I have told many people, go out there and give forgiveness. That's part of the homework I gave people, and they have to do within 24 hours, typically. And you'll be surprised, our audience may be surprised how effective that some people were shocked. You don't have to say much how shocked the other person was, and sometimes their biggest support, and they've had tears, floods, oceans of tears, you name it. Because now everybody's in a different place, especially the older ones who were the predators at that time, because they were seeking something and they themselves didn't understand. So why don't we now take a moment and do a forgiveness practice? And we can do a healing blessing at the same time. So would you do us the honors of that? Since, I can do it, you could do it, but why not you?
I can. And what I want to say about that is when we do a forgiveness practice, it doesn't mean that we're telling the person that hurt us that it was okay, that it was okay that what they did was not wrong, or that we're letting them off the hook, or that we have to even have them back in our life, or, have lunch with them. That's not what a forgiveness practice is. A forgiveness practice is to just release the negative information between the people, and also for yourself. I remember the very first time I did a forgiveness practice, before I really knew the powerful way that I do it now. They said to make a list of all the people that you want to forgive. And my list was long, and there was a lot of men's names on that list. And they took the list and they looked at it and they said, where's your name? Your name's not on this list. And your name, yourself, needs to be at the top of the list to forgive yourself as well. And that was a really aha moment for me, because I could think of all these people to forgive, but I never once thought to forgive myself.
Absolutely.
So forgiveness is, so.
Yeah, the other thing, the other thing about that is, just before we go to the forgiveness, is that just came to mind, is that we, when we hold on and there's attachment, we have to cut the ties and disconnect.
Right.
And that's basically what it is.
Exactly.
We are not, we give people, we're not, to be have a compassionate heart, you have to open your heart to yourself, like you're saying, as well as forgive. Not live in this space, but forgive to move on. And the people may be in your space, they may not. But this is about you and only you, like you said.
Right.
So detanglement, attachment.
And one of the hardest things maybe to accept or to realize is the fact that karma is the law of cause and effect. So whatever you've put out there, be it this life or a past life, comes back to you. So, we are spiritual. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. This is one human experience, is my belief. So you've had, and I'm not telling anybody they have to believe in reincarnation, but even in this life, everything you do comes back to you. Every kind word, every good deed, every unkind word, every unkind deed. So when you realize that whatever's happening to you is probably something that you've done to somebody else in a similar way, that's a huge aha moment as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, the whole idea of cause and effect, it's one of the 12 universal principles. So it's in every Bible and every religion. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's karma law or cause and effect. So
absolutely.
So when you realize that, then you can really go deeper in a forgiveness practice to
I'm just going to add to that, and I'm going to add to this on the quantum side of it, on the NLP side, New Linguistic Program side of it, with the cause versus effect, which is huge. And it's us taking responsibility for what we say, what we do. And we reach to a point that we don't remember what has happened. And even if you have dreams or flashes, your third eye is open and you see certain things, it's not about that. It's about, okay, we're not going to point the finger and blame. Okay? That's going to drain the life out of you. So we say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for what I do for the rest of my life in this life that and beyond. That's what we work towards, enlightenment. And we take responsibility. We stop, we think before we open our mouths to take action. This is what we're going to do, and this is what you're doing right now. So we have to stop pointing the finger, regardless, and say, okay, what am I going to do about it? And this is exactly what you're doing right now. So let's go, and let's start the forgiveness practice. For those who are just set the space, for those who are literally lying down, if Lydia asks you to say something, say it silently. If you need to chant or so forth, just do it silently. For those who are sitting and standing, sit up, and please do. She may say a few Mandarin words, but like how means hello, Gonsong just says, when we call on all the souls who are going to help us today and work with us, pretty much they have to rest too. So they have to go back home. She may say Shan Chi Jing, which is the universal law of the soul, heart, mind, and body, and energy as well. So these are some of the little things you may or may not hear, but I just want to make sure that if you're lying down, please, the reason why is because energy can still flow through you. Now, Lydia, I do have the Love, Peace, and Harmony calligraphies here as well. So I'll activate the field that I have as well to assist you with this, and everyone. And I'm not sure what you have there, but I will also turn on that. And I would say to everyone, you may not understand this, and you don't need to understand this at this point. But just in your minds, in your heart, and do this from your heart, please. Just say, all the light treasures in my lower abdomen, please activate. You have been given treasures. You do not probably know what they are, but trust me and trust Lydia. You have a lot more than you even know. So use it. Say that every day. Just activate it. You'd be surprised what can happen. So, Lydia, while you're doing that, I'll activate the field around here as well. So if you can proceed, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, and I have the Da-I, Greatest Love calligraphy here, and Da Kuan Shu, which is the Greatest Forgiveness calligraphy here. So
beautiful.
We will invoke those as well. And Greatest Love melts all blockages and transforms all life. Love is the greatest power in the universe, and greatest forgiveness brings inner peace and inner joy. So that's what we want and share out with everybody that would listen to this.
Yeah, I have many calligraphies here. I have many calligraphies and so forth here too. So I'll just activate the whole field and
beautiful.
Thank you.
So I will lead the forgiveness practice, and you can repeat after me silently. Do a forgiveness practice specifically for childhood sexual abuse, since that is the subject that we're talking about today. So you may or may not have had that experience, but you can change the words for that to whatever you'd like to speak forgiveness for, if it isn't that issue. So, but that's what I will do today, since that's our topic. So let's just close our eyes and go within.
Oh, and just direct them where they can put their hands. I forgot that part.
Okay, well, I have my hands on my heart, and I would have my other hand on my abdomen, my belly, except for I'm holding the phone. So one hand on your abdomen and one hand on your heart, because where you put your hands, the energy goes. And so that's what we want, is to have this loving forgiveness energy come into our bodies, into our fields. And take a deep breath and just let all the way into our abdomen, let our belly fill up naturally and easily. And then breathe it out. And so a forgiveness practice sounds like this. Dear everyone and everything that me or my ancestors have ever hurt or harmed, taken advantage of in this lifetime or any of our past lifetimes, connected to childhood sexual abuse, I deeply, deeply and sincerely apologize for all of our mistakes. I apologize for the hurt and harm that we have done. And I understand to just apologize doesn't make it okay, doesn't make up for it. I'm grateful for this awareness, for this understanding, for the lessons that I've learned, and for any and all forgiveness that you can give me. I offer my unconditional forgiveness to everyone and everything that ever hurt or harmed me in this lifetime or any of my past lifetimes connected to childhood sexual abuse. I forgive you unconditionally. Please accept my forgiveness. I ask my ancestors to please forgive everyone and everything that ever hurt or harmed them in any of their lifetimes connected to childhood sexual abuse. We forgive you. Please forgive us so that we can bring love, peace, and harmony between us. And I forgive myself for all the mistakes that I've made in this lifetime and my past lifetimes connected to childhood sexual abuse, for creating negative information in others and for storing it in my own field. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself, and I release it now. So I forgive you. Please forgive me to bring love, peace, and harmony. I forgive you. Please forgive me to bring love, peace, and harmony. I forgive you. Please forgive me to bring love, peace, and harmony. How? And you can do this practice many times a day, over and over again. If you have the Tao calligraphies that Dianne and I are talking about, you can use those as well to trace. And that is an aspect of a forgiveness practice. I hope that it serves you well.
Beautiful. This is a very strong feel right now, because I can feel it. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my tongue. I can feel it. So let's just stay there for a moment. Did you want to continue with a short blessing, or would you like me to do it, or as you
I would be happy to do that.
As you're in flow right now, go ahead.
I can definitely do a blessing. I will offer a Tao Hands healing blessing as appropriate for those that are listening. and I will sing Love, Peace, and Harmony. I'm a Love, Peace, and Harmony field representative, so I will invoke that as well in order to send out positive frequency and vibration to anyone that would like to receive it that's listening to this call.
Beautiful. And we're actually listening to the Love, Peace, and Harmony instrumental music in the background. You've been hearing throughout the whole shows on all the shows. So this is beautifully. It's going to be complemented. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it goes like this. I love my heart and soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together. Love, peace, and harmony. Love, peace, and harmony. Lula, lula, lee. Lula, lula, la, lee. Lula, lula, lee. Lula, lula, lee. Lula, lula, lee. Lula. I love my heart and soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together. Love, peace, and harmony. Love, peace, and harmony. Silently for one round. Wow, a lot of heat coming from this side. Thank you for the opportunity to offer this blessing.
Thank you. And for those our audience who listen, we're here with Lydia Maes. Beautiful. Just put your hands together in your prayer position to give gratitude and thanks. Take a moment or two to finish that up. Take some deep breaths in and let it out. When you take the deep breath in, your belly breath, that's you're breathing in all the love and the light. And when you breathe out, you're letting go all whatever. And I would say this, I've never said this before, but I would say this on the show. I've never said this on this show. I'd say to all my clients. If anyone is really feeling moved or shifted, and although you may believe that you didn't feel anything possibly, just know things are still happening. It takes about 3 days. So my recommendation is go take a shower from head to toe. You'd be surprised what can happen. When you're ready, open your eyes. Beautiful. That was a very strong field. I haven't felt that feeling in a long time on a show, to tell you the truth. Very strong field. So, how are you feeling, Lydia? Although you did it, but how are you feeling?
Dianne, the truth is we're all energy fields, right? Yes, we're all quantumly connected. That's the reality that, I'm awake to, is that we're all drops in an ocean and it's all the same ocean. So we're all connected. So when we send out positive frequency and vibration, it reaches everyone. And when we send out negative information, it reaches everyone as well. So we want to be conscious of what we're sending out. So, that's the beauty of what we've learned and what we do, is that everything is a vibration and we all have a vibrational field. So you want to be very conscious of what you're letting into your vibrational field. That's why we don't want to complain. That's why we want to avoid negativity, because that's all in our field. So once we become very conscious of our field, that's when we can transform the negative information in our field to positive.
That's right. And we also want to include who we bring into our field as well, okay? Let's just add that. We tend to forget that, it's all the things tangible things that we have surrounded, but that also means people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk for a few minutes here about your working, and you've realized your mission and your quest is to help people. That's your destiny, to help people go through this, and you're starting with women. So tell us a little bit about how you intend to do that. Like, what are you focusing on? You've gone through everything. You've been through so much.
Thank you.
So again,
thank you for. Well, thank you for letting me speak about that, because I have been on a journey for over 35 years of becoming whole again. I would say bringing all the fragments of myself back into wholeness. And I realized that I've learned so much on my path. I'm a Reiki practitioner and acupressure, and I've done many different modalities. For the last 14 years, I've studied with a wonderful spiritual teacher and Grand Master, Master Zhigong Shah, who I know you know, Dianne, that has really brought everything that I've learned together into, there's several modalities that he has, but it's just everything I've learned 20 years before, brought it all into focus. And what I realize is that I have the tools and the experience, and I've walked the walk, that I feel like I'm ready to go out there and help other women, starting with women. I know it's men too, but starting with women, to move through this journey much faster than 35 years by sharing what I've learned, and by nurturing them and empowering them with the self-empowerment tools and techniques that I've learned to help them to heal their soul, hearts, minds, and bodies. And get unstuck from the trauma of this childhood sexual abuse, and be free of the guilt and the shame and the low self-esteem, without medication and without years of therapy. So that's what I am on a trajectory to do, and I'm doing that through a 6-week program that I'm launching. And I am offering a 90-minute free workshop to introduce that 6-week program to anybody that would like to come. I'll probably do those monthly, so that they can feel and experience these tools and techniques that I'm speaking about, because, it's hard to explain the color green.
I understand.
You have to experience it, right?
Yeah.
So
the only thing
I'm going to be doing.
The only thing is, Lydia, is by the time most people hear this on the replays, they may not. Just keep checking if it's monthly. So you never know. It might be your lucky month. And that's Lydia and Maes with an E, not a Y, Maes. So tell me, Lydia, what motivates you?
What motivates me? I am.
You are a warrior.
On a cause, really.
You're a survivor.
I'm a
warrior.
Right. And my why is so that I can help as many women as I can, not take 30 years to overcome these traumas, these stigmas that we have from this. The guilt and shame, low self-esteem. People turn to drugs or hypersexual activity. It's interesting. I listened to a talk by a doctor that there's something called ACE, adverse childhood experiences, that they're bringing into the medical mainstream now. And what they've realized and studied in the medical field is that these experiences actually shorten our lives by 20 years. And open us up to be more susceptible to heart attacks and serious illness.
It's a disease. It's a disease. Everything that comes into us, whether it be...
Exactly.
It is a disease.
Unhealed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we leave it
it's
unhealed
open wounds.
and untransformed. So
wounds.
I'm on a mission to help as many women as I can to release this from their field, from their energy field, from their bodies, from their soul, hearts, minds, and bodies as quickly as possible. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm just so motivated to do, because I know that I can. I know that I have the tools. I have the path to get there because I've walked it, and it's going to be a lot shorter for lots of people instead of taking years and years. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no,
Dianne.
absolutely. But just quickly, as you were going through that, for the just a few minutes we have left, as you were going through that as a parent, how did you protect your kids? Were you were you overprotective? Were you you had your antennas up, or you had your little?
Well, if I'm honest about it, I didn't do a good job of protecting my first daughter when I was 15 years old, because my older brother got to her too. Because it's not an excuse, but not healed enough myself, I would leave her there with my mother on weekends so that I could go to school. I went to school during the week, and then I worked on the weekend as a waitress. That's how I survived, because I didn't want to be on welfare. I didn't want to be a welfare mom. Mm-hmm. I did take some help temporarily to get on my feet, like free childcare. They had free childcare back then for when I was at school, but my mom had her on the weekend, and so she was subjected to that, and that's greatly affected her whole life, and something that I had to forgive myself for, because I felt very guilty about that for a long, long time.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here. Sweetie, I'm going to stop you here. Again, one thing I want everybody to understand. You did the best. Girl, you did a hell of a best at your age to survive, to be a good mother, to be a good parent, to break through the chains and the struggles you had to go through. You did the best you can do for what resources you had and what you knew best.
Yeah,
so I know
I did come to grips with it, because I realized that part of it was my responsibility as her mother, but there was also my mother and my brothers, right? Mm-hmm. So I couldn't take all the blame for it, even though I did carry that blame for a long, long time. I have overcome that.
How is she doing?
But she has a lot of challenges. She has some physical challenges and mental challenges, and not all because of that, but her own journey, right? Mm-hmm. But the other thing I wanted to say is, then I had a second daughter, and the second daughter was completely night and day, because the second daughter was never allowed to stay at my mother's. If we needed a babysitter, my mother came to our house. When we had family gatherings, she wasn't allowed to go downstairs where he was, and the other kids would go down, and she was never allowed to go down, and she never understood why, but we just overprotected her, I guess you could say, to make sure that she didn't have that experience. And he's passed away now, my older brother, so, and I've forgiven him, and, but, yeah, so that's the story of how I protected my children. I didn't do the best job for the first one, but I definitely did protect the second one. And I think maybe overprotecting is the word, but
everything has its pros and cons. Yeah, we don't have the answer for everything, and that's why we're on this journey to find it out. In your last few words, what would you like to say, a message to everyone out there?
I'm sorry?
What message would you like to leave us and the audience?
Well, I think it's just what you said, Dianne, is that we're all doing the best we can with what we know, and that's what we have to realize about the people that are in our lives, too. They're doing the best they can. Like my mother was doing the best she can. I know that she was. And we don't know what they've been through. That's the thing that's always amazing, is I never knew that my mother was molested. And, my brothers probably were too. So it's really hard to judge a book by its cover, I guess, to use a cliche. We've never walked in anyone else's shoes. So if you can just be aware that everybody's doing the best they can, then that shifts the consciousness. It shifts my consciousness to say, okay, that they're doing the best they can, and when we know better, we do better. That's really the bottom line. So just keep moving forward. For me, I've always said one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward.
Thank you so much. I want everyone to say thank you so much, Lydia. And when you have an experience, your experience, it depends on if you're at a stage in your life where you can understand. Just know you may not want to hear this, but there's learnings and lessons in all of this. And sometimes things come up, unresolved matters that you need to deal with. Unfortunately, for us, if we don't feel pain, we don't understand anything. We just get too comfortable. And sometimes we have to get really uncomfortable to get comfortable. Like Lydia had to get really uncomfortable to be comfortable to talk about this topic. Why? Because she was sent here to do so. Whether you want to believe that or not, she was sent on this mission. And the only way she could do this, as crazy as it sounds, is she had to live through it. Because nobody can tell a story. No matter how much you try to make this up, try. Try means failure. There's no failure. There's only lessons to learn. She couldn't have done that. So she's been put on a mission, and she's been doing it, and she starts here today with everyone to talk about that. So I want you to go back when you can and truly listen to what she's saying. With no judgment or anything. If it's something that affected you, it's a very sensitive topic. I understand that. But what I do know, there's a lot that was shared today from the heart. Really and truly. And like I said to her, this is a very powerful field, of energy field. If any of you understand that. And if you don't really understand it, it's okay. You're here for a reason. And if you know someone, or if you have been a survivor in anything in your life, especially the topic we spoke about today, congratulations, because that's your one step ahead of many people. Share this with people. Reach out. And I want to say thank you so much, Lydia, for being vulnerable and open and comfortable to talk about this today. So I want to thank you. I want to thank our audience. I want to thank anyone who's going to listen to this. And on that note, I want to say aloha.
Thank you, Dianne. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Aloha, namaste, sitaram, assalamu alaikum, shalom. All the greetings and blessings, and have a great day, everyone. And in the words of Master Shah, love, peace, and have harmony in your life. Blessings. Thank you.